giving a free haircut to somebody that can't afford it, somebody that needs it more than anybody else. This is the most pivotal moment in their lives, whether they know it or not. And my job is to make people feel better about themselves. You get a good haircut, you're going to feel better about yourself. You get you get a bad haircut, you can feel worse about yourself. I think we all know that feeling.
Mark Bustos, the man, the myth, the legend. Bro, I want to tell everybody that is listening here, this man I have known for almost 10 years, right?
Yeah, just about.
Just about 10 years. And we met at one of the most prestigious hair salons in New York City at the time in a very serendipitous way. He is truly one of the most inspiring human beings that I have had the pleasure of meeting. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. As we get into this dialogue, I think everybody else is going to agree with me as to why. And we'll talk about the narrative a little bit later, but we met in a very serendipitous way. In fact, when he started at this new salon as a hairstylist, I was the first person that he actually cut the hair. You remember that, Mark?
I do remember, yeah.
It was actually day one, but this man is a philanthropist. He's a visionary. He is a kind man. And what he does, with hair, he is quite literally probably the Pablo Picasso of cutting hair. And that is the least of his talents as a human being. I am honored to have him on this show and to be able to call him one of my friends, one of my brothers. Mark Bustos, I love you, bro. Thank you so much for being on this with me.
Ari, it's such a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for it's great to see you again, even though it's through technology, but it's always a pleasure to see you.
Look, Mark, I would love for you to just share with everybody, who you are as a person, what you've done, and please, I know how humble of a man you are and how gracious of a man you are. But can you please share with us just a little bit about, first of all, about your journey, what you've done? One of the things that you said to me that I remembered is at the time, this was obviously many years ago, the only job you had ever had, was being a hairstylist and, working with your cousin, I believe. I think it was your cousin, right? That you worked with many years ago in Jersey, but that was the only thing that he did. And so he was really a master of doing one thing and, doing that well, which was his passion, which was his art, which I really admired. And over the iteration over the last 10 years, he's become so much more than that, which was always in his heart. But Mark, can you tell us a little bit about, that journey of how you started, where you were, what you're doing, and a little bit about what you're doing now and what that took, and in the process, kind of maybe some of the struggles and obstacles that stood in the way as you begin really coming into this authentic human being that you are today.
Yeah, so basically, I've been a hairdresser. I've been doing hair since I was 14 years old. Like you said, I've never had another job in my life. All I've ever done was hair. And to actually, the reason I started doing hair is because of a failure that I had from the very, very beginning. And that was when I was 14 years old. All my friends were out there getting jobs to just make a little spending money here and there. My friends were getting jobs at the movie theaters to clean up the theaters and at the batting cages, at the bowling alleys. And I tried to do the same. I tried to get a job at all these different places. But honestly, when I was 14 years old, I looked like I was 8. So nobody wanted to hire an 8-year-old. I swear to God, that's
you
really
so young now.
Thank you. That is literally the reason why I had to figure something out. And I started cutting hair out of my parents' garage. I started on my little brother and then my best friend. My best friend would come every single week. I gave him terrible haircuts every week. Eventually got a little bit better and better. And, my friend turned into a couple of friends, turned into the freshman basketball team, and then turned into the whole high school and then surrounding towns. Every day after school, my parents' house was the hangout every day, whether people were just shooting hoops in the driveway or waiting to get their haircut or just there to hang out. It was the place to be after school every day. So, from there, I was cutting everybody's hair. And the cool thing about cutting hair back then is that I was able to, at a very young age, I realized that I was able to bring people together in a very positive way. And what I mean by
Huh.
that is that, you were to get like the captain of the football team and the leader of the band squad, who would normally not even make eye contact with each other in the high school hallways, but are now sitting next to each other in the garage, waiting to
Wow.
get their haircut, interacting. So it was a community center. It was really cool.
So it was almost a
Um,
unifying force in a way too. Like people, like it was almost you were creating unity in some regard.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, you think about even the movie The Barbershop, where we've all been to like a little neighborhood barbershop before, and it
Makes
just brings
sense.
all different type of people together. And these types of people wouldn't normally interact outside of the barbershop. So it's cool to be able to do that at such a young age through high school and all that. But after high school, I realized that I wanted to be able to make my parents happy. So I actually went to college first. Um, I
Guilty as charged.
Yeah, so I went to college, and it wasn't until after my sophomore year in college, right in the middle, my father comes out to me. He's like, "Hey, when are you gonna go to hair school?" And I was like, "Wait, like I'm going to college to make you and mom happy. Now you're actually saying this to me?" And so, but then like I was already halfway through college, and I wasn't gonna quit. I had to finish. But the main thing that stuck with me that I learned in college that not a single college professor actually taught me was a lesson on how to hustle. And I say
Huh.
that because my junior and senior year in college, I enrolled in all the classes and all that kind of stuff to get my credits, but I didn't take notes. I didn't do homework. I didn't go to class. Instead, I was in the college dorm rooms giving free haircuts in exchange for notes and homework
Wow.
and all that. And I didn't buy a single book. And to be quite honest, I still had to take the tests, but I had other people do the hard work for me. So I would get all the notes and the homework, and I would hand it in, and still show up to class when I absolutely had to. I did the bare minimum, but passed all my classes, and
Sounds
I,
like good leadership. It sounds like good delegation and good
hey,
an
listen,
entrepreneurial spirit.
yeah. So, and I don't ever regret going to college, because that lesson alone is something I bring with me today, is learning how to build a network and literally just hustling and bartering. And these are things I do every single day. None of it is a bad thing.
Mark,
So eventually I went to hair school after I got my bachelor's in business, and continued on. And so I worked my way up in the hair industry, in different hair salons and different barbershops. And I got to this point where, I always wanted to be successful, whatever that meant. I always wanted to get to this top hair salon and start working there, and that was success. But when I got there, you were my first person I cut in that high end hair salon. I got to that point, and after a while of working there, I realized, like, if this is what success is supposed to be, I still don't feel it. When am I going to find it?
wow.
And it's one
And
of those
you were
things,
the
like,
top, and you were the top of the top. I mean, when you came in there, I would argue even in terms of the cost and the fees, you were in the top 5, 10 hairstylists in Manhattan. So if you weren't feeling success, in your trade, that's a big problem.
yeah. And you know what? Like, I didn't know what success really meant.
Huh.
To me, I didn't know what it meant to me at the time. Yeah, it's one of those things, like, I didn't get this far just to get this far. Like, what's next? And I think you can relate to that very well. You know.
You know it.
Um, so it wasn't until I stopped looking for success is when I found it. It was actually, I went on a family trip to the Philippines to visit family.
You go
My
pretty
family's
often still. You still go pretty often to the Philippines. I mean, you're very much of a family man. I know you love. I mean, you're a huge family man, but you've always consistently gone back almost yearly, right, for many years.
Yeah, I was going about 4 or 5 times a year until COVID hit. So I actually haven't
Even
been
during
there.
those early years, like even in the earlier years when you were like still, cutting hair out of the garage and stuff, were you still, going to the Philippines then, or was it until that you started to have a little bit, more financial stability, et cetera?
Yeah, so I went to the Philippines for the first time when I was 12. I
Huh.
went again when I was 25, which was before I made it to this high-end hair salon in New York. And then after I made it to that high-end hair salon, from 2014 up until 2020, I was going about maybe 4 times a year for about six
Wow.
years. Um, and when I got to the Philippines, on that one particular family vacation back in like 2013 or something like that, in developing countries like the Philippines, it's real. Poverty is real poverty over there. And like, what I mean by that is that, like, here in New York City or any big city in America, you see people on the street corners with a cup asking for change, or sitting outside of the homeless shelters waiting for their meal, which is wonderful. It's great that we have that somewhat of a system going on here in America. But when you go to a developing country like the Philippines, there's no, you can't hold a cup out in little areas like that because everybody's in the same scenario.
Oh my
Um,
God.
you know, and there's no homeless shelters there. There's no food pantries over there. Everybody's in the same boat over there. And when I get there, I realize that I see kids living on the streets alone, 4 and 5 year old brothers living alone on the streets, taking care of one another with no parents. Kids living in the cemetery with no parents. So I had to do something. And it wasn't one of those things that was this whole big grand idea that I was going to come up with before I even got there. It was just something that I saw, and I had to do something. And what I do best is hair. So what better way to give back? So I basically rented a chair in a little barber shop, a garage door that opens up like 100 degrees, 100% humidity. And I worked with the barbers for the day. I rented out a chair and worked with the barbers for the day. And I paid all the barbers to be able to work with them. I paid them about $20 each, which is more money they're going to make all week cutting hair all week,
Oh
you
my
know?
God.
So I invited the homeless kids to come in for free haircuts. And from that moment on, I realized that, what I do, I do hair, but it really gave me the true meaning and fulfillment of what I do in life. And made me realize that I can do this anywhere. The first boy that sat in my chair, I knew I was going to make him feel good by giving him a good haircut. But what I didn't realize, what I didn't realize was how he was going to make me feel. And um, so from then on, when I came back home to New York City, I packed a bag, everything cordless, nothing I had to plug in to make it super convenient. I went for a walk in New York City, and I gave my first haircut on the streets to a homeless man in New York City. And
I remember it like it was yesterday. I think it was an African American gentleman that you edged up his beard, super perfect. And the before and after was just, it was, oh man, Mark, it was, one thing that I thought was so amazing, is I think a lot about, my book comes out in July, and one of the things, it's called The Gift of Failure. And one of the things that, I kind of talk a lot about and explore a little bit is how, these types of things, whether it's a haircut or how we carry ourselves or the clothing that we wear, truly can alter our state, our mental state. So when you address something that I believe, homelessness is, and I think a lot of people agree, has as much to do with mental health and a lot to do with the psychological aspect as much as it does with anything else. So for you to do that, you're completely changing their confidence, the way they feel about themselves. They're, having this unbelievable emotional response to where one might look at it, wrongly and say, oh, a haircut. Maybe it's vanity. You have a nice haircut and you look handsome. But the way I always interpret it is truly like reinvigorating someone's true confidence in themselves to and feel better at a visceral level. Am I missing something, or is that, like, did you experience that? That's what I felt from afar when I saw it happen, that like their demeanors changed, like the smile, the look, the sparkle in the eye. Like it wasn't just a nice new haircut and you look good. It was like a human makeover.
yeah, that's absolutely right. From that first guy that I cut in New York City, when I handed him a mirror to show him what he looked like, he looked in the mirror and he said, "Do you know anybody that's hiring? I want to get a job." So the fact
Are
that I
you
was able to give
kidding me,
him that
Mark?
makeover and a good haircut, it's not what I expected to hear. I actually had him say it again because I thought I heard him incorrectly, but he said it again. Do you know anybody that's hiring? I want to get a job. And to this day, actually, the following weeks after that weekend, after that haircut, I went around the streets to look for him because everybody on the streets know each other. They're all like kind of cool with each other and stuff. And I had a photograph of him. So I went around the streets and I was asking everybody. I was like, hey, have you seen Jamar? Have you seen Jamar Banks? Here's this photo. This guy, this guy. Nobody's ever even seen him before. Um, and I think that's a good sign. It's a good sign that he was able to immediately get off the streets and find a job. And it's also a sign
So
to
he
me
did.
that
So he actually went and found a job?
so none of it was confirmed. I've never found him again.
Yeah, but the legend is that it worked and he kind of
That was the point,
elevated. I
was
mean,
to
he
get him
told
off
you
the
himself he's
streets,
going to
and
do it.
he's never been found again. Um, so I
Wow.
actually also look at him as an angel in disguise because
Tell me about that.
I've never seen him again, and whether he was there physically or not, um, that moment, that day, made me and pushed me to continue to do what I did for that individual and what I did for the kids in the Philippines. It pushed me to do it every single Sunday for years straight after that. Um, and and beyond. And after that, I was able. I've been from 2014 up until today, I've been able to travel around the world and back, sharing my gift. And
Mark,
if it weren't for Jamar Banks, I think it might be a little different.
walk me through. I mean, that's I don't have words for how I'm a little bit. Anybody that knows me knows that I'm usually not at a loss for words. I don't think I've stopped talking since since whatever. But tell me what about, there's a lot to be said. Tony Robbins has talked about this a lot, and Jim Rohn, and a lot of these, type of, call them whatever, motivational type individuals, whatever word you want to use to describe them, about the joy, as you said, of what it has done for you, because knowing you as a man and knowing your intention, everything you've done is selfless and doing it for somebody else and never having wanting anything in return. I know how you think, Mark, and I think everybody should know that about this man, that he never wanted notoriety although the world like now knows. And it's, if you go to his Instagram, at Mark Bustos, you'll see hundreds of thousands of people that are whatever. But this man never aspired for that. Like, he didn't look to be famous, or like, he did it purely out of just absolute love, need, and was drawn to it from everything that I've seen. And again, I was there in a very, very small amount, watching from the sidelines, seeing this happen. But my question is, what did that do for you in giving, as you did, as you brushed on it? How did that change your perspective? You're a father now. You weren't a father during that time. You've now you're father of two beautiful children. How did that change you in giving that? Like, what happened to you?
Yeah, so like I said, from like that moment I cut that first boy off the streets in the Philippines, the feeling that it gave me was something that I'll never forget, and it's the same feeling that I still feel inside me today, of just making people happy is basically an addictive feeling. At the same time, I don't do things for myself. It's really to help others, but at the same time, you get great fulfillment out of being able to give. And especially being able to give something that you're really good at. And that's a whole other topic of, I tell people all the time, I get messages from people from all around the world, from America, from all around the world, saying, Mark, you've inspired me. I'm going to go to hair school. I'm going to get my license, and I'm going to go out on the street. I'm going to give haircuts for free on the street. And I do not encourage that,
Why is
because
that? That's interesting. Explain that a little bit further.
basically some of the pickiest people that ever sat in my chair are the ones that can't afford a haircut with me, the ones that I give free haircuts to. And I'm serious about that, because, like, when you're giving a free haircut to somebody that can't afford it, somebody that needs it more than anybody else, this is the most pivotal moment in their lives, whether they know it or not. And, my job is to make people feel better about themselves. You get a good haircut, you're going to feel better about yourself. You get you get a bad haircut, you can feel worse about yourself. I think we all know that feeling. So people are not meant to be practiced on when it comes to anything. And I think the most important thing is to learn before you serve. Is to be able to give back what you're best
Say that
at.
one more time. That's a bar.
To
You want to
learn
learn
before you
before you
serve.
serve. Learn before you serve. That's a bar. We need to think about that in this process. With all this stuff happening, walk me through some of the, as you mentioned, some of the things that maybe you would have done differently, or what you learned. Because again, the way that I look at failure, and I think you agree with me, is we fail forward, right? We fail, we learn in those processes. We get, and we know all the cliches around that, right? You get knocked down, you get back up, but even I've come to learn, like, scientifically, failure is how we actually learn and gain experience. It's just the nature of the beast. And demonizing failure is actually just incorrect. Like, calling it like it has all that baggage of being a bad thing, that's just wrong. Like, success and failure are literally two sides of the same coin. Period. Hard stop. Anyone that's done anything in life, big or small, has failed and has moved on. When a child is learning how to walk, they literally stand up, fall down, stand up, fall down, stand up, fall. I mean, like, we failed our whole lives, yet somehow we've been taught that that's a bad thing. So my hope is that we can start to re-signify, what that means. So tell me about some failures of yours, like whether it's giving someone a really bad haircut when you're young, or maybe it's some, I don't know, like what are some things that, and again, but with that said, what was the introspection? Because I think that's the critical component, is looking back at that failure, connecting the dots, finding what the jewel is, and then using that to go forward and make a different mistake, just not that same one. So can you walk us through a few of what those pivotal moments were for you?
Yeah, so I think down to back to what I do, like just walking around the streets. One of the main things that I do besides giving a haircut, the first thing I do when I approach anybody on the streets is I ask them if they're hungry.
Huh.
And I learned this very early on. Is like I tried to give away like leftover pizza or leftover sandwich or like a half bag of chips, and honestly, I don't want anybody's half bag of chips. I don't want anyone's half-eaten slice of pizza or
Nor do I.
half of a sandwich. So when I say learn before you serve, is to learn about the person. What do they like? Give them an option. Ask them like, if you can have anything to eat right now, what would it be? And they might like they have to think about it for a second. They'll eventually tell me. And there was this one couple in Herald Square on 34th and 6th in Manhattan. I approached them. I asked them what they wanted to eat. They said, let's just go across the street to this. It's like one of those like bodega places with an island of like buffet, like a huge
Yeah,
island of
yeah.
buffet, like all these foods. And they could have chosen anything they possibly wanted. They both went and they took their food and brought it to the counter, and they both had salads. And I asked them, I was like, oh, just curious, why did you both pick a salad when you could have eaten anything you wanted here? Because if I didn't ask them what they wanted, I would have just grabbed like all the like things that I wanted, things that look good to me. But they said that they're tired of eating half bags of chips and half slices of pizza, and if they're given a choice in life, they want to eat healthy for once because they never have that option. Um, so that's just like a very simple failure about learning before I serve. I had to fail a little failure before I learned that about just walking around the streets and just learning on my own.
That's a paradigm shift too, because like, I mean, it, that's an unfathomable answer to me, right? We're so like, whether it's propaganda or whether it's the way we're thought to view, homelessness. And look, I'm, that I'm in the real estate business, in the commercial real estate business. A huge part of our business is, older apartment complexes, renovating them, and things of that nature. But coming to learn that tenant experience, coming to learn what they want versus what we think that they want, and all of those things has been an unbelievable learning experience. Like I might like countertops in a certain way or think this is important, but it wasn't until, as you said, learning before serving, of understanding, doing surveys and, asking questions, and come to find the things that were more important to them. I thought, oh my God, they don't want me to increase their rent. But in reality, some of them weren't money driven. They didn't care necessarily about the rent being raised. They wanted to make sure that the dog park was right. And like you start to learn that, your vantage point of how you see the world, certainly for me, being so humbling to learn that it's not just my perspective. And as you said, I'm going to use that mantra, learn before you serve, is that, if we don't ask, how are you going to know? And a dear friend of mine used to say, questions are the answer. If you ask the right question, you're going to get the right answer. So I think that's something we can all learn in just doing life. I mean, just, what's the old cliche, like assuming, right? Make ass out of you and me. Like quite literally, that is a failure within itself.
Yeah, man. And you said it best with exactly with what you do with real estate and all that kind of stuff. You can't just yeah, add this countertop that you like, but like everybody that you think would want to be in that space and rent that space, maybe don't like it. Who's going to rent it from you? You know?
Yeah, I'm not the customer. My job is to serve my customers and create a safe living experience, create something that's going to go, and from a business standpoint, create something that'll monetize. And I found it was a big learning experience for me, as a firm, when I was looking at, let's say, color schemes on the website or marketing materials. Come to learn, I thought it was cool, but our clients didn't, and it's not fulfilling the purpose. So it's not the best way to actually do that. So, in learning all the stuff that you learned, elevating your stuff and becoming, the, I think the world now sees you as more of a philanthropist and a humanitarian more so than being a hairstylist. When was the point that you think that you transcended, being a hairdresser, so to speak, into all these other things, working, aligning with Under Armour and all these other big brands? And, when did that inflection point come where you realized, okay, that was my stepping point. I still love it, but now this is bigger than hairdressing, which God bless every hairdresser in the world. My hair is unforgiving, and the way that I feel when I get a good haircut, I feel like I'm a better man. I feel like I can walk better. I become more confident. I'm a better business person, and I can really relate to that. But when was that point where you transcended it? Because I watched it again from afar, through social media and through the posts and through the media. But when did you know definitively and outside kind of verified that you are like, you're not a hairdresser anymore, you're a humanitarian?
Yeah, so I think the first time I felt that was when I looked down at my phone and my battery was dying really, really quickly. It was just being drained because I had all my notifications from social media and Instagram in particular just blowing up my phone. And I looked down at my phone and my story just started going viral. And I didn't sleep for about 10 days straight after that happened because I didn't really know what was happening. And, I was getting media requests from every major media company and news outlet from all around the world
When
all
was
at
this? Wait,
once.
when was this? What year was this?
I think this
Do
is
you remember?
2014.
2014.
And that was when, like, I was doing haircuts on the street for over a year before I even told anybody. Never mind posted on social media. I wasn't posting anything on social media. It was just something I was doing quietly on my own every single Sunday,
I remember.
documenting before and after photos as I was going along. And it wasn't until I had someone in my chair at this high end hair salon. Naturally, I'm going to get people from the Huffington Post and CNN sitting in my chair. And they were just asking me. I remember one time there was this person, someone from CNN saying, "Hey, so what do you do on your days off? What do you do on your free time?" I was like, "You really want to know what I do?" And I told him on Sundays, this is what I do. And he goes, "Oh, wow, that's like so interesting. Would you mind if I had like, this is a great story. You mind if I have like a team come out with you one day?" I was like, "All right, cool." Um, and then I get someone from the Huffington Post that same week asking me and sent me an email with a bunch of questions like, "Hey, answer these questions." And I answered it. Um, and when I was out on the streets with CNN with the cameras out, I was in the middle of a haircut on the street, and I looked at my phone. Like I said, it was blowing up, and the people on the camera, the guys on the CNN cameras were looking at me like, "Oh, is everything okay?" And I said, "I think the Huffington Post just published my story." And they were like, "Wait, what?" And like they started scrambling, "Let's get this done now." Boom, boom, boom. And as soon as we got off the streets, it was out in 2 hours. So now CNN
Oh
had
my
it. So now it's just
God.
like going viral in so many
And
different
this is all within a
avenues
day. Like, you're watching this in real time.
in real time. And actually, a month before all of this, I had another friend at Refinery 29 um, who knew what I was doing because she was a really good client of mine. I told her what I was doing. She asked me a bunch of questions, emailed her the answers to my questions, and she didn't publish it. But then when she saw that the Huffington Post and CNN published
Of
it, she was like, "Boom,
course.
put it out." Um, and then the Today Show hits me up immediately, and within that same day, and the Today Show published it instantly. So now I had the Today Show, the Huffington Post, CNN, Refinery 29, all within 24 hours.
Oh my
Boom, just kind of
God.
exploded, and that's how it all started. And that's when I realized I was like, "Wow, like this is a lot more. This is way bigger than just hairdressing."
Oh my God. What a great story. Look, I know that you have so much going on, and I'm so, honestly, I love you, brother. And I just, I don't want to say, I'm, proud, because I feel that sounds a little condescending, but I'm just in awe of what you have done as a human being. And there's a couple other things that I want to ask you. There's one question I end all this with that I'll end with, but I also know, and that I'm a health wellness fanatic. I take that very seriously. But one thing I always really admired about you is you always made time to take care of your fitness. Like, you were always in excellent shape doing stuff. Can you give us like maybe a minute or so of how, being the man that you are, as busy you are, how health and wellness, how much you value that, and why?
Yeah, I mean, especially since I had I have kids now. I have a 5-year-old and a 1-year-old.
Beautiful children. Please go to his Instagram at Mark Bustos and see his beautiful family. I mean, he has a gorgeous, gorgeous family.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Um, now that I have kids, everything I do is for my kids. I ask myself for anything I'm about to do in life, I ask myself one question: is would this make my children proud?
Oh my
Um,
God, it's
and
beautiful.
and that's pretty much how I go about doing life right now. And my kids want me to pick them up and throw them. Well, I got to be able to pick them up and throw them physically. I don't work out like I used to work out when I was 21 years old, lifting all heavy weights, doing like 300 pounds once. Instead I'm lifting 50 pounds 50 times because I'm picking up my kid 50 times a day,
But
like
but it's
50
still a
times a month.
priority for it. But it's still, is it fair to say? Because I remember you would not miss the gym. You were doing freaking 50 pull-ups and crunch. I mean, you were extremely fit like during those years. Like, so you still do value fitness as I know it's iterated, but that's still, you believe that's still a big important factor in how you have the energy to be a father, to be a businessman. Like, do you still think those coincide the way that you did before?
Absolutely. If I didn't feel good, if I couldn't get up out of bed and be energized, I couldn't do anything. We got to be able to take care of ourselves before we take care of others, and that's the most important thing.
Absolutely. Thank you for saying that, because I always admired that regiment. Even when you were, commuting in from Jersey all the way to Manhattan, in those early years at the salon and things like that. I always remember you saying, "Nope, I got my workout in, or I'm going to the gym, and I'll be in the gym for 2 hours, or I went on a run." And I always admired that about you. That no matter what was going on, you always made time for that health and wellness, which turned into contribution. Like you said, you took care of yourself, made yourself strong, were able, to contribute. The last thing that I'll ask you, that I ask, all of our guests, is if there is one thing that you wish everybody in the world knew, what would it be?
I think it's really about to be successful. It's really about doing one thing well. Um,
Wow, that's a good
not
one.
to be a jack of all trades. I think it's great to be a jack of all trades, but it's really about doing one thing really, really well and just taking it and sharing it with as many people as you can. You know, to not be restricted um, to coloring inside of the lines and breaking the barriers and bending rules. It's okay to bend the rules and ask for forgiveness rather than permission. All these things.
That's fantastic. And what I love about it is that's so congruent with everything that we know about you as a person, from having the only job you've had of being a hairdresser. You live that statement too, which makes it that much more impactful. So you heard it. Do one thing, find one thing, and do it well. Become a master. Mark, you're an amazing human being, as I said to you, and I've told you for years. I'll keep telling you. You inspire me watching your journey through this thing. I mean, we are all cheering for you on the sidelines, and I know that the world is a much better place for having you in it. And look forward to seeing you breaking bread. God bless you and your family, and I hope that we see each other not through a damn camera. Although I'll take it, but like to see you in person and give you a big hug.
God bless, brother. Thank you again for having me. I
All
got to
right.
come. I'll come visit you out in Dallas, right?
Come down to Dallas, see our development side, and then come down to Austin and come see the
Austin too.
kids, come
Yeah,
see
that's
the
right.
office. Bring the babies. Everything is child friendly in our house. As you know, we have 3 little ones now too, and bring them
Amazing.
down, and let's show the next generation. And for the love of God, can I please get a good haircut if you don't mind next time? Because
I got you, man.
my fade's all messed up, as I'm sure you can
No, no, your
see.
fade looks good. It looks good.
I'll see you later, buddy. Thanks so much.
All right, brother.
Bye. Take it easy, bro.